what I've learned about myself, the 6th of June, 2026. The push and pull between the old and the new. The old is filled with misery and failures. The new is the unknown. The old is the familiar and the new is the unfamiliar. The new is filled with uncertainty, but also hope. The old is the familiar, but filled with sadness. I want to go after my new life, to create the life that I've always wanted for myself. But the uncertainty can be scary and the destination is unknown. The old keeps whispering for me to come back, but I did not like my old life. I always yearned for a life where I could be happy, but the old never gave me that. What do I do now? What if I fail to create the new life that I want? What if my old habits are impossible to break? Do I risk it? Will I be in the same situation again in 10 years' time? Or will I have been able to make my dreams a reality? Have I prepared myself enough to face the uncertainty? Or will my newfound conviction dwindle before I reach the next level? Will I be able to resist the temptation of going back to what I've always known? Will I be able to stand firm the next time that my character is called into question? So many questions, but very little answers. But that is just life. If we all had the answers, then would life be worth living? All I can do now is have faith that it will all work out. Faith in myself to face my fears head on. Each fear I've faced so far has shown me that most of these fears are just that. Fears that once faced lose their power. Time to take that lesson forward and take the leap into the unknown. So, the last few days have been a bit of a emotional roller coaster. Feeling really good about where I want to go, but then also having immense doubt and just the fear that I go on another path only to be brought back to or to fall back into those same old patterns and habits that have kept me stuck in this cycle of going after something while I'm on that path, having my doubts creep in. And it's not that I even necessarily failed at what I was pursuing, but rather giving up before I was actually able to actualize my new dreams. And I'm wondering if I'm going to be stuck having this same train of thought whenever I try to pursue something big and new for my life. Will I be able to have the courage to push through, not knowing what my future might hold? And yeah, it's also like I think I've been trying to do so much and put in so much effort that it's almost to some degree becoming counterproductive to my progress, putting, like I've already said many times before, putting too much pressure on myself to reach this next step, this next level, which in itself is maybe even just me chasing another accomplishment. Is this truly what I want for myself? Or am I being pulled in a direction again by what I think society has wants me to do. Is my future written out already, or am I actively creating it? These are all thoughts that constantly pull me back to wanting to fall back into my same old patterns that have not allowed me to progress to become the person that I've wanted to be yet. That's what I've noticed a lot more throughout this internal reflection, is that I'm not the person that I want to be yet. And at what point will I be able to say that I have become the person that I wanted to be? And again, I sometimes feel like, am I trying to do too many things that lead to that feeling of being overwhelmed again? Which I've noticed that whenever I get overwhelmed, it's almost like I just want to throw everything away that I've been working on up until that point. And I just keep going through this again, this loop and this cycle of wondering if I'll be able to make the changes that I want to make. Or is there going to be an obstacle that I can't quite deal with that leads me back into the familiar patterns of old? And like right now, even just the way that I've approached this and how I feel like I've been talking in this monologue so far, feels like I have kind of to some degree regressed back to the same thought patterns that kept me stuck for far too long. Those self-destructive thought patterns that I've had for, I say 30 years, but it's more like 18, because that's when I kind of remember my whole life feeling like it was actually falling apart from when I was about 12 years old. And it's just been trying to pick up those pieces again, only for my mind to break under the pressure and fall back into those old habits and patterns. And how do I quite figure this out? How many sessions do I need to go to get through this? But then even that causes its own vicious cycle, that I get this motivation to make these big changes. I start to book tons of appointments and start building this roadmap that I want to follow, that I think will help me make those changes that I want to see in my life, only to have something like worrying about the cost of everything to get there, not having those means to necessarily do it myself. How much support do I ask for? How much do I rely on myself? At what point will I become more resilient and be able to break through these old thought patterns and actually create new ones that will hold firm for my future? So I've just been experiencing a lot of self-doubt lately, and I think again that's maybe also just a part of life and a part of the process. I keep thinking that, yeah, making these changes is going to lead to me reaching a peak and staying there, but every peak does also lead to a downturn, because that peak is only what it is when comparable to the lower points in that curve. And sometimes, even when I'm talking about these sort of things to my friends and family, only when I talk to someone else do I notice the flaws in my own ways of thinking? And how do I actually unpack these? How do I have someone or something that is going to keep driving me? But hopefully, this will be one of the last days of so much self-doubt. Again, I've been doing over a month of really strict routines and practices to try and build my new mindset. But I think what I've also come to realize is that I've been trying to, at the same time, take in a lot of new information, which becomes overwhelming and adds to the list of things that I need to do to feel like I've made the necessary changes, as opposed to sticking to the list right now and being wary not to add too many new requirements to that list. But I'm sorry that today was a bit more of a downer. I think that's what I'd come to realize is I was trying to do things a little bit differently, but then I got sucked into that same thing that I had done so many times before of only showing the positive thoughts and positive things coming into my head, where there will always be times when years of previous thought patterns might come in and try and pull me off of my trajectory. So I hope that me talking about what I've learned about myself will help give you hope if you are going through some of these same doubts. And again, we might not have the motivation each day, but as long as I have the discipline to continue with my routines, even when I do feel bad, is that not an accomplishment enough to feel proud of myself? And at what point do I tell myself that I am truly proud of myself? Am I proud of myself for each day that I show up? Or am I waiting for this seemingly big event to give me validation? But I think, again, it's important to show the days when I'm motivated, but also the days when I do doubt myself and where I'm going, and use this as a place to be able to release those negative thoughts. Because one of the things that I often fall into is that, again, I'll try speak positively and all these things while at the same time doubting a lot of those things that I'm talking about. So thanks for watching. I hope that throughout, again, what I'm learning about myself, that'll help you to analyze what you're going through. And hopefully, again, my whole thing is if I can just be an inspiration to someone and know that I've helped someone else on their journey, that will be more than enough for me. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys here again tomorrow.